I think this is the end of a beautiful friendship.
But for me, it's just the beginning.
We get up to some stuff. You're gonna love it.
After being disappointed by Tenet, I began to worry we were in the Christopher Nolan downslide and his best films were behind him. But with the jaw-dropping cinematic event that is Oppenheimer, this motherfucker has proven he's still at the top of his game. Oppenheimer is much more dialogue-driven than the average Nolan movie, but the writer-director did a great job of tackling a less action-oriented story. It's just as captivating as Inception or The Dark Knight, without being able to rely on fistfights and car chases. The performances are incredible, the complicated plot is refreshingly accessible, and for a movie that mostly consists of scientists sitting around doing calculations, Oppenheimer is full of astonishing visuals. This video will contain full spoilers for Oppenheimer, although it's all history that happened like 80 years ago, so you can't really spoil it. Nolan is more renowned for his command of visuals and editing than his talents as a writer, but Oppenheimer has a fantastic screenplay that's almost certainly a shoo-in for an Oscar nomination. It starts out kinda confusing, it drops you right in the middle of the story and jumps all over the place following two parallel timelines dubbed Fission and Fusion, one in colour and one in black and white a la Memento. But the script eventually settles on a more or less linear path and becomes a lot easier to follow. It bombards you with context from the outset, but once it's set up all the historical figures and their relationships, it becomes an intimate, meditative character study of a brilliant but deeply flawed and conflicted scientific genius. Nolan's script doesn't just ponder the big questions, it provides solid answers for them.
That's happening, isn't it?
After playing a succession of supporting roles in previous Nolan films, Cillian Murphy finally gets a chance to take center stage in Oppenheimer, and he doesn't waste it for a second. He dives into the deepest depths of the troubling emotions that plague Oppenheimer, from the guilt of a cheating spouse to the psychological toll of being responsible for 200,000 deaths. Murphy will easily earn a Best Actor nomination at next year's Oscars, and he just might take home the award. The supporting cast is full of legendary actors giving phenomenal performances. Matt Damon as the stoic, dry-humored general overseeing the whole project, Florence Pugh as Oppenheimer's emotionally unstable lover, Jason Clarke as the arrogant kangaroo court judge out for Oppenheimer's blood. You fucking hate him, but that's what makes it such a great performance. Tom Conti gives a seamless, symbolic turn as Albert Einstein, Olivia Thirlby brings real moxie to Woman in a Man's World Lily Hornig, and Gary Oldman disappears into the role of Harry Truman for a brief but unforgettable cameo. But the one who stands out the most is an uncharacteristically subdued Robert Downey Jr. as Oppenheimer's Lex Luthor, Lewis Strauss. Downey nails the comedic quips as usual, but he also brings plenty of pathos to a frustrated intellectual who was overshadowed by a much better mind. For most of the movie, it doesn't seem like they're gonna give Emily Blunt anything to do. They've got one of the finest actors in the world, and she spends the first 3/4 of the film sitting quietly and hanging up laundry. But then, in the final reel, she gives a rousing testimony at Oppenheimer's security hearing, and suddenly Blunt's acting talents are put to terrific use. That monologue alone might earn Blunt a Best Supporting Actress nod.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Hans Zimmer was still busy scoring Dune, so Tenet composer Ludwig Göransson stepped in once again to provide Nolan with the music for Oppenheimer. It would have been interesting to see what Zimmer would have done with this material, but Göransson did a fantastic job with Oppenheimer's score. His music is tense, enrapturing, and creatively composed. The eerie violin theme switches between romantic and terrifying. The unnerving stomping sound that plays every time Oppenheimer feels overwhelmed has a really visceral impact with a deep-seated sense of dread.
What we really need to do is create a powerful sense of dread. See, the longer the note, the more dread.
And I wanted to take the audience into that room and be there when that button is pushed
5,
and really fully bring the audience to this moment in time.
2, 1.
The first atomic bomb test is one of the most mind-blowing movie moments in recent memory. Oppenheimer is worth seeing on the big screen for that scene alone. In a packed theatre on opening night, throughout the whole film I could hear people rustling popcorn and whispering to each other.
What the Maybe that'll teach you not to rustle your bloody popcorn.
But when they dropped that bomb, the room fell to a dead silence. You could hear a pin drop, it was mesmerizing. Then you get an unsettling reprisal of that "I am become death" line before the shockwave hits. The movie foreshadowed the impact of the shockwave with all the explosive tests. As they blew up bigger and bigger pieces of the bomb, the shockwave arrived a little later and a little louder. Then, when they dropped the whole bomb, that foreshadowing is paid off spectacularly with a solid couple of minutes of ear-piercing shockwave that rattles your armrests and makes the whole room shake. After the bomb test, the rest of the movie goes on a little too long. Once the bomb has been finished and used on Japan, the movie feels like it's almost over and it becomes a bit more aimless as it devolves into an elongated series of security hearings. The bomb test is the movie's explosive climax, if you'll pardon the pun, and the sexual innuendo. It's the peak of its action, and it takes a little too long to wrap things up afterwards. But I've always been of the opinion that a movie that goes on a little too long can save itself with a great ending, and Oppenheimer has a great fucking ending. It brings the story full circle by revealing what Oppenheimer said to Einstein before he snubbed Strauss at the beginning of the film. Strauss was so self-centered that he always thought it was a slight to him, but they were having a completely unrelated conversation about the slippery slope of nuclear weapons. Einstein's line about being given a medal when your field has outgrown you, and how the medal isn't really for you, it's for them, makes a bittersweet connection to an older Oppenheimer being given an arbitrary award by a future administration, years after Truman callously dubbed him a crybaby.
Are we saying there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world?
Chances are near zero.
Near zero.
What do you want for theory alone?
Zero would be nice.
Oppenheimer is a seriously impressive cinematic achievement. It's one of the finest films of Nolan's career and one of the greatest movies of the year so far. It's a fair and balanced portrait of a very complicated dude who was given a very questionable task.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.